He's a famous radio personality with a powerful story of courage and resilience. He's battled cancer twice, faced off with a heart attack, and talks openly about mental health challenges. And he's coming up next.
Welcome to the Living Richly podcast. We are so excited today to have with us a guest. He's a local radio personality. Really, I mean, this guy owns the city of Ottawa.
He's a big deal.
Everyone knows who Stuntman Stu is. And Stu, it's great to have you here with us.
Good morning, guys.
How you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
Awesome. Well, we love to have guests on our show. We love to have them kind of share their stories, and you've got a pretty powerful story, but maybe tell us a little bit about your upbringing, because I learned something about you just recently that I think is going to shock Ottawa Nation.
What?
You're not born in Ottawa.
I'm not.
What?
I'm not. I've been in Ottawa 30 years.
30 years.
I'm originally from Montreal.
From Montreal.
The West Island.
Wow.
So you're an outsider.
I am.
Yes. Is that where you learned to hate pineapple on pizza? Is that where that started?
I learned that from day one, but I also learned to hate the Maple Leafs.
I hate the Maple.
There you go. Okay, so now we've brought you back in. You're
All right,
now
we brought you
embraced
back
again.
in.
Maybe tell us a little about your upbringing. Who are you?
I was born in Montreal. We moved to the West Island, and I'm an only child. That's why I didn't have any brothers and sisters. My parents told me I broke the mold.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Montreal. I went to high school at Lindsay Place High School, which is now closed. Actually, the new Speaker of the House is from Lindsay Place High School.
Okay.
I just learned that yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
And I moved to Ottawa in '94.
Wow.
And you got into radio. Now tell me a bit about that journey, because again, and for we have a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are from outside of Ottawa, from really around the world. We've got so many great listeners.
Good morning, Belgium.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We have some Belgium listeners, and the Belgium listening just
our audience just grew in Belgium. Thanks for that.
But certainly for those of you that are maybe outside, you may not realize I'm not sure if there's anyone on radio locally who's more well known than you. There might be a couple. Your co-host is somebody who's quite well known, but you certainly have been involved in so much.
I'm a media whore.
Yeah, exactly. You've done so much.
Is there a trending hashtag in that along those front? Stuntman Stu.
Media whore.
Media whore.
Yeah, it's good.
I used to be.
And if there isn't one, I'm starting one later.
It will be by the end of the day.
I just started it now, actually.
How'd you get into radio?
I fell into radio because I'm too dumb to do anything else.
Okay.
But I remember my father was driving me to school. I was in grade 5, and I'd been kicked out of my original elementary school. I'd been kicked out of 4 schools, by the way. Shocking. And he was driving me to school, and in grade 5, we were listening to Aaron and Tasso, a former Montreal radio show, and he said, "I'd love to get Aaron's paycheck at the end of the week." So that stuck with me, and I'm like, okay, I'll do morning radio.
Yeah. And when did you first get started?
I first got started, I tried to get involved in Montreal. I was at Cégep after high school. I had a radio show on campus that had 5 people listening. And, sorry, that was my hospital calling me.
Oh.
Piss off. That's fine.
You sure you don't want to take that?
No. So I had a radio show with 5 people that listened. It's called the Mr. Stu Show. I could play whatever I wanted. Then I had a show at Concordia Radio in that summer of '93. And then I came to Ottawa with a bunch of roommates in '94, called Algonquin College home. And Ottawa was supposed to be a short stop. It ended up being a life stop.
Yeah. 30 years.
30 years.
Wow.
You for your radio stints, has it mostly been music where you've been involved? I know that's what you're doing now. Has it always been that? Did you kind of look into
except for one stint where I did sports radio, the worst mistake of my life. I'm saying that honestly because I wanted out of rock radio. I felt in my head I'd done 10 years. I felt I knew everything. Yeah. And I made the jump to Team 1200, became TSN 1200, and the worst 3 years of my life. I wasn't prepared for what was coming because I knew a little bit of hockey, but you have to know everything about sports. And there was mornings where I was sitting there and like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll just play along and act. And if I was doing sports radio today, the listeners would kill me.
Right.
Because listeners know more than you.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, our producer, Steve. Hey! Steve's here. Stu. That's a little more than we allow you
He
to
never
do
gets
normally.
that excited.
Normally
That's
from
the
him.
most excited I've seen him off camera.
Sorry.
There you go. Of course, he was our very first guest ever. In sharing his story and of course the journey of what happened after, kind of life after radio, going through all of that kind of stuff. And so I know that there's a connection, and you guys know each other as well. And of course the Ottawa, I'm assuming the Ottawa radio community is not a huge community.
It's very
so
small
everybody
and
gets to
tight-knit.
know each other.
Yeah.
May not all be close or friends, but they all know each other,
totally.
certainly, and you run in some of those same circles. You're certainly known as a community builder, and this is where, even in getting ready for this episode, when I mentioned to people, we've got Stuntmans too, I have yet to meet a single person who goes, who? Like everyone knows who you are because of not just the radio. I mean, you're on a pretty popular radio station. Sure, yeah.
His hat's not going to fit if you keep going.
I didn't say that they said good things about you. Just that they know you.
Right, they know you.
You got that prick on your podcast?
You are infamous.
No, but it's because you're so involved in the community.
Yeah.
You do so many things in the community. What drives that for you?
Well, just to that point, I had a kid at Farm Boy. He said, "You're Stuntman too?" I said, "Yeah." And my head goes big and goes, "You came to my elementary school." I'm like, "When?" He goes, "I was in grade 1. How old are you now?" "I'm 18. I'm like, "Thanks for making me feel old as fuck."
Right. Exactly. Those are the kinds of recognitions we don't want to get.
Yeah, I would do every event I could get my hands on, because if there was nobody doing it, I wanted to be in front and center. Yeah. And I felt if I could get myself in front of a community, either 30 people or 300 people, it would get my name out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And get the station's name out.
Yeah. Because your community builder reputation precedes you. Like, tell us about No More Bullies. I was fascinated by that.
We launched No More Bullies as soon as I moved over from sports to, I went from sports to Bob FM. After Bob FM, they moved me to Magic. Magic became Move. So on Magic, we decided to launch a No More Bullies campaign. I was bullied in high school. No surprise why. Such a good kid.
Yeah.
I shoot my mouth off and get beat up at recess.
Right.
But I remember there was a story in the Citizen, and we were like, in the paper, like, I can't believe this still goes on. This still happens. And so I said, if I have to tweet, if I have to go to every student in the city, I will. Right. And Twitter lit up with, that's a great idea. I went for a nap and I woke up from a nap, and a couple of 1,000 retweets later, everyone's like, you should do this. So we visited 10,000 students.
Wow.
With an anti-bullying message. We had a full campaign with Chemo and YouthNet. We had a guest speaker on who was very passionate in the community. We had a guy by the name of, I'm drawing a blank at his name. He's going to really be mad at me because I'm forgetting his name. That's the radiation from cancer. Right. Such a great... It'll come to me later in the broadcast. Okay. Yeah. But a really great a musician that joined us.
Wow. Okay. You must have, I would assume, some of the stories that kids would tell you, and the stuff that they'd go through.
The most rewarding thing about that is we would finish in the auditorium, and teachers would come up to me and say, "I've never seen an anti-bullying presentation like that." Like, we were skeptical when we booked you guys. Right. We thought, what could the radio station tell us that we don't already teach the kids? And kids were coming up to me with wonderful stories like, I was beat up, I related to what you said, and they only listened because I was a PA announcer of the Sens. That's what got their attention, right? And that's fine.
Yeah. Listen, you use whatever tool or whatever it is the platform that opens up the door for you.
Peter Joined was the name of the musician.
There you go. We knew we'd get it in there.
And what is one of the most meaningful community endeavors that you've been a part of? I mean, is it No More Bullies? Was there something else where you felt you really made a difference compared to other ventures you've been part of?
Going back to the Bear in the late 90s, early 2000s, we did a radiothon for the Children's Hospital, and that to me was the most memorable because we had parents on with their kids that were in the hospital for long periods of time, and we were young broadcasters. We had never experienced this kind of emotional connection before, and that totally opened my eyes about the city, and really just got the connection right there. So I'm looking back in my career, if I was asked, that was the best thing we've ever done.
Wow, amazing. Now you have to tell us, because there's so many people. You're known across the city on social media. I mean, a huge following on social media. Yeah. I'm always amazed at just how the reach. Of course, we'll get into your story, other parts of your story, I think that have been significant towards that. But Stuntman Stu, where does the name come from?
What a stupid name. So 95, 96, I'm working at 106.9 the Bear. No, 95. I'm still a student at Algonquin College, and I had a study, an exam to do. I had to go and interview famous people. So I called up Doc and Woody at the Bear. I said, "Hey, I'm just a student at Algonquin College. Can I come and interview you guys?" And they said, "Yeah." And so I came in, and they had me sitting in the studio for a couple of months doing sweet fuck all. Go get the carts, go get the CDs.
Right.
Carts. What's a cart?
Yeah.
And old school reference.
Yeah. To all our younger viewers.
Commercials were on these things called carts. So one morning we found out that the Tragically Hip were coming to town. Because back then there was no social media.
Yeah.
And we found out at 5:30 in the morning. And Shea 106, our arch rival, were broadcasting live from across the street from Barrymore's, where the Tragically Hip was going to play that night.
Wow.
And they had like 500 people waiting in line.
Yeah.
The Bear had no idea. Nobody tipped off the Bear. So Doc looks at me and says, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "No," but like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have access to the Bear van, which I loved. I eventually had access to that beautiful machine. And I went down to my shoe.
Back in the day, did it have like shag carpet on the floor?
No, that was 54 Rock.
Oh, okay. Just clarifying, this is important information.
So I go down to Bank Street in my shitty little Chevy Cavalier, and I grabbed a bunch of Bear stickers. And every time Dave Schutte, the promotions director, went over to the people in line giving them Shea stickers, I would take the Shea sticker and give them a Bear sticker, and I would put a Bear sticker on the Shea mugs that they would give out, and put Bear stickers on the Shea Frisbees. Yeah. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Who are you? Who the fuck are you?" I'm like, "I'm Stu from Algonquin. I'm from the Bear." So I got the crowd to say, 106.9 the Bear Rock. Shea sucks. Every time Shea was broadcasting live. Guerrilla marketing, immature, but that was radio wars back then.
Right.
And I came back to the station, and Doc and Woody sat me down. They said, "Good job this morning, but you can't be known as Stu the college kid." I'm like, "What's wrong with that?"
Right. Why not?
And Doc says, "Stuntman Stu, Studley Stu, Superman Stu." And then eventually they said Stuntman Stu. And I remember looking at Doc saying, "Doc, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." 30 years later, it's paying the mortgage.
Right?
Yeah.
What a story. I think it's one of the most brilliant names because it does. It sticks, right? It flows off.
I'll be in Farm Boy, and an old lady was saying, "Stuntman Stu." Stuntman. But Dave Tiger Williams. People have nicknames. I'll be 80 years old in the retirement home. "Hey, Stuntman."
Right. It sticks with you, right?
Yeah, it'll always be there. You are, and again, if those of you, I encourage people to follow you on some social media. You're certainly on Twitter a lot. That's where I see a lot of your stuff. I know you're on Facebook.
You follow me on Tinder too, which is kind of
Tinder,
embarrassing.
which is a little bit weird, but
he does that.
Swipe left.
He does that.
I don't know. Is it right, left, or right?
I don't know.
Sure.
I have no idea.
So I don't know if me saying I swiped left was a good thing or a bad thing.
It depends.
I swiped up. Yeah, I swiped up.
You swiped up.
It didn't work. That's why I'm so bad at this stuff.
Well, it worked. He's here on the show today. I mean, something
exactly. Yeah.
What kind of a podcast is this?
You are certainly in your social media and like that. I mean, you're kind of the epitome of dad joke, right? I mean, you're like always goofing around, joking around.
My kids hate my dad jokes.
Sure.
Well, my kids hate mine, but it's part of our job, isn't it? Like it's a responsibility we carry as men. We carry that mantle.
You do have this kind of exterior, this persona,
Yeah.
the bubbly, fun, crazy, silly, all of that kind of stuff.
I always wanted to be a broadcaster that's the same off the mic. So if somebody comes up to me at a grocery store, I want them to experience me the same way that I am on the radio.
Yeah. So you're this kind of goofy, even.
Exactly.
And that's what I sensed even, we're meeting each other for the first time in person today. And I sense that. I sense that actually what you see online, what you see or hear on the radio is what you get.
Yeah, because I meet famous people all the time, and it disappoints me when they don't live up to what I have them in my head.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So you're this online personality, big personality, all of this kind of stuff. And I remember the day, your first video that you put out announcing that you had leukemia.
Yeah.
And how emotional that was, obviously, for you and your family beyond words. But how the whole city took a collective breath when you shared that video.
Yeah, that was emotional. That was posted at 10:15 at night from the Ottawa hospital. I was there alone. The doctor has just told me you have leukemia. And I foolishly said, "What's that?" And the doctor said it's cancer. And I was sitting with the Sense doctor, Doc Chow. He was with me at the hospital. And he said, "You'll be the most requested survivor of cancer ever in the city to host events." And I said, "Okay, but can we beat this?" And the doctor said, "We can." So I said, "Light it up. Let's go."
Yeah.
But the amount of the amount of response from the community I wasn't expecting.
Right.
And I think people not freaked out, but saw that somebody my age could get, I was 41 years old and I got cancer.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people saw that and said, holy shit, he can get cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, like all these years later, I'm still getting messages constantly on my Facebook, direct messages. Hey, my father's going through this. My sister's going through, I'm going through this. What advice do you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I, you're somewhat answering it just with what you just shared there, but maybe go into a bit more detail. You made a choice to be completely transparent and open with this journey.
I was selfish because the reason why I decided to share it is because I wanted free therapy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, the hospital was like, would you like to talk to somebody? I said, no, I don't want to talk to somebody. I would engage with listeners every day because I wasn't on the radio.
Yeah.
So I wanted that. I wanted that instant feedback. I wanted to hear people.
Yeah.
I wanted to share my story. Like every procedure, like I would go in and have a bone marrow biopsy where they shove a giant needle up pretty much above your ass and it hurts like hell. You got to take meds to calm you down. I would share it. I'm I'm going on Facebook Live, and I would turn over and I wouldn't show my ass because no one wants to see my ass. But I would take people along for the ride. I'd said, you're going to learn. I got that idea from Max Keeping because Max Keeping for years had problems with his health, and he welcomed the audience into it.
Well, I think hope is a currency that people long for.
Yeah.
And when people that we look up to or that are well known to us, like yourself, go through something of that nature and share the story openly, you're dealing out some serious hope to the average everyday person who's going through something similar. I lost my dad to cancer back in 2008 after a 2-year battle. He didn't make it, but he fought courageously. Yeah. And it takes a toll, obviously, on the person afflicted, but on their entire network. Right?
I didn't realize at the time the amount of PTSD that it would give me.
I bet.
Because I would go back to the hospital and I wouldn't want to go. I would never go back to the emergency room because I'm like, that's where I found out. It's no go zone for me.
Right.
And I don't like going back. That was a hospital that called for another appointment. I don't like going back. I mean, they do a great job, bar none.
Yeah.
But I don't like walking back into that building.
I bet.
I remember, it's interesting. I had a daughter who passed away many years ago, and I share that story on the podcast. But and like you, have right from when she passed away, which was quite a few years ago, was very open and transparent about the journey of grief and all of that as a way of kind of bringing people along in hopes of helping and supporting other people in their own journeys. But I remember the first time walking back into of course, General and Chio are connected to each other. And it was at the Chios where she died, and me coming back in there the first time. I was a minister at the time, and going in to visit somebody, and the overwhelming sense of dread, the emotion as I walked, and I was, where's this coming from? I didn't make the connection. So
almost in a surprising kind of way.
Yeah.
I was recently had to walk through the cancer ward at the hospital, and was similar.
And I have friends,
but I can only imagine that someone like you've gone through what you went through.
I have friends who are cops and firefighters, and they've seen the worst of the city and the worst of the worst. And I say, I have PTSD, and I feel bad for saying that because that's real PTSD in my opinion. But my shrink told me that your PTSD is no different.
Right.
If it's PTSD in your head, then it's PTSD.
Yeah. Exactly what Dr. Sherry, that's exactly what she said. Because I was, when she first said, you understand you have PTSD. And I was like, no, I don't. That's what war people have. That's right.
That's what soldiers have. That's
I don't have that. And she
responders.
goes, no. It's absolutely, and it's so important. It's why therapy is so important, right? To work through all of this kind of stuff.
I mean, talk to us about. I mean, yours is a story for me anyway. A story of courage and resilience. I mean, you faced off with the first bout with leukemia. You would face off with cancer a second time not that long ago, a heart attack. As a matter of fact, when we first reached out to you to be on the show, it wasn't long after we had just started talking about it that you experienced your heart attack.
Yeah.
And we're so thrilled that you're now here with us healthy.
Well, thank you.
Right. And you've talked openly about some of the mental health challenges that have come out of that. What are some of the major lessons you've learned? Like, how's it changed you, the way you look at the world, the way you look at life?
I've become an old fart. I complain about the dumbest things. My wife says, can you stop being an old man? Like I'm driving down the street and I see somebody looking at a phone while they're driving. I honk the horn. My wife is like, can you stop? Please. Can you fucking stop? My wife says, keep your beak out of somebody's business. I'm like, but they could kill me.
Yeah.
Let somebody else worry about that.
Yeah. I
become set in my ways. I remember, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do this. She said, no, you're not. Everything I have to get approved by my wife now.
Well, and that's probably wise. That's probably wise for every guy. Every guy
that's watching this, get it approved.
Get it approval. Get the check mark before you proceed, right?
Yeah.
But how have I changed my life? I appreciate life more now. I still complain about the stupid little things in my life. Like yesterday, I was on hold for an hour with my company that provides a water filter. And I'm on Twitter, I'm bitching about it. I'm like, I want every CEO to go online right now, call your 1-800 number. And the guy that actually works for the company messaged me, like, what's your fucking problem? I said, your 800 number doesn't pick up. Like, it had me on hold for an hour. The guy's double charged me. Anyways, my wife's like, can you stop bitching about your problem? Nobody cares.
It's interesting. We often talk about some of the books that have influenced us. Michael Easter's Comfort Crisis was a book, and I mentioned the chapter that's probably had the most profound impact on me from that book is a chapter where he talks about, and this is a guy that the book's called Comfort Crisis. He talks about how we why we're unhappy in life, and he says one of the secrets to becoming happy is you need to think about your death at least 3 times every day, which is kind of like, what? And certainly there's all kinds of research on that. It has been, and it is something that I do on a regular basis, is contemplate the idea that that life we don't know when that day is.
When's your number's up.
To embrace the moments, to experience that. What was that like for you to be kind of facing that so clearly? It's easy for me to say, sitting healthy, going, I think about my death every day, versus somebody who has experienced close to death on a number of occasions. And how has that impacted how you think about death? And then how does that help you appreciate life?
It's changed my life completely. I've got 2 kids that are teenagers, but they were younger when I got sick. And I remember the night that I got diagnosed the first time in 2016, the doctor said, had you gone home and slept, you would have died, because my levels were so low.
Wow.
It'd be like a race car going out with no gas.
Right.
So I had that looming in my head. I only had 2 nights since I got sick the first time where my mind went off to another place. And my wife said, does that pay rent in your head?
Right.
No.
Oh, I love that
don't
language.
think about that.
Yeah.
My wife, she's a pretty smart lady.
Yeah.
If you're watching, honey, you're a pretty smart lady. I love you, honey.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So how does it changed the appreciation for every day? I get that I'm Bruce. I'm 50. I'm coming up on 56. And
you're the oldest one at the table.
I am the oldest one at the
just
table
making
when it
note,
comes to
Rob is the old man.
And I love, like, my dream in my future is to be Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino, right? Just yelling at people to get off my lawn, right? Like
that's what my wife says about me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, but how do you embrace the day?
I wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. I say, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And I go, stretch.
Yeah.
And then I remind myself what I do for a living. I do the show from home. I told management, I said, I'm not coming back. I've had cancer twice. I have speech issues from all that radiation, because they did the radiation not only on my full body, but my brain too. So that fucked me up. I couldn't do the Sens anymore. I quit 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I said, I can't do the late nights and the early mornings anymore. I would stumble at Sens games where people in the media would notice, and they'd send me texts, messages, and I actually got sent home from a game. I got pulled after the second period.
Wow.
It was January of 2017. I'll never forget that night driving home and bawling my eyes out before 17.
I bet.
So I remember, because there was, of course, there was a comment about it on Twitter, I assume, is where I would have seen it. But I do remember that game where the announcer changed in for the third period. And
Jonathan Trottier, who took over for me, is a great guy. And I always get messages from Sen fan, you're the greatest of all time. No, I'm not the greatest of all time. Michel Lacroix in Montreal is the best PA announcer in the world.
Yes.
The abs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What are some of the, again, facing off with, illness on several occasions. And as you said, the treatment themselves, I remember with my dad, like the treatment was sometimes as bad as the disease in terms of the side effects.
They're trying to kill you.
Yeah. What are some of the coping strategies and things that you turn to in the moments where, right, you were pulling it from your toes to keep going?
Well, the first time I sailed through chemo, And I was like, what's everyone talking about? This cancer shit's easy.
Right.
And the second time I was like, holy fuck. It was in the middle of the pandemic. I couldn't have anybody in my room.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm a prisoner in my own room. I had C. difficile as well, which is a shitty thing to get.
Yeah.
I wasn't even allowed to leave the room. I would like beg the nurse, please let me go down to Tim Hortons. So I finally bribed the nurses. I said, take my card, go down to Timmy's, buy for the whole staff, just bring me back a muffin. That was the only thing I could eat every day.
Wow.
A muffin and a freezy.
Yeah.
And I'd barf it up at 6:45 every single day. But the chemo on the second time literally almost killed me. And I would look at it and wake up every day in the hospital and like, is today going to be the day that I die? Is today going to be the day that I improve? And once I finally got out of hospital, I came home and I started eating like a pig because I thought, am I going to die?
Right.
And if I'm going to die, I want to have this poutine. That's why I put on 30 pounds. I used to be fit like you. Now I'm a fat fuck.
Fit like you.
Fit like me.
Like, who am I? Swiss cheese?
Notice how he didn't even look at you. He didn't even look at you. He looked straight at me.
What did I say when I first walked in?
Fuck you, Stu.
That will become a reel on social media. That moment right there is going to be highlighted
Fit
for
like
sure.
You.
I
want to be just like you,
want to be just like me, don't you, Rob?
I used to look like him. Yeah, I love your tats, though.
Thank you.
That's the first thing I said when I saw you.
Exactly. It was, yeah.
He doesn't like our Jeep, so I thought this podcast almost didn't get off this episode almost didn't get off the ground.
2 guys with 2 Jeeps?
2 guys with 2 Jeeps. And here you are still talking to us. Yeah, we feel.
The Jeep wannabe. He wants to buy Bronco.
Not a chance.
Exactly.
That's the pineapple on pizza.
But to Jim K. Ford, we appreciate and support you.
Sorry.
Yes.
We talk a lot about living your life deliberately, living an intentional life, and there's nothing like having terrible pain show up. It's a funny thing about humanity. Oftentimes, it takes pain, challenge, difficulty, adversity for us to kind of wake up from the day-to-day coma that we're in and start making better choices, start saying, I want to live my life more deliberately. What are some of the choices you've made throughout this process that you feel have led to a much more focused existence, I guess?
Well, for a long time when I was younger, in my 30s, I was always trying to make it in with the in crowd. I tried to buy the right car. I wanted to be with the in people. And I realized after a while, fuck it. I'm going to just... Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
You are allowed to swear. Okay. We fucking swear all the time.
Okay. Okay. That's good. So I was always trying to get in with the right crowd. And then I said, fuck it, I'm going to be myself. And only in the last couple of years, I said, I'm going to just do what I do. If you like me, you like me. You don't like me, fuck off.
Yeah.
I can't convince you to like me. If you don't like me, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And that's what, going through cancer twice and a heart attack put me in that direction.
Right. Because just trying to live to other people's expectations,
you can't.
It's a zero-sum equation. Like it's a losing game constantly.
Exactly.
Right.
And a lot of people, when they're starting out there, we have to make this amount of money. We have to be with these people. We have to dress like this. Do what you want.
I want to know who are those people that set those standards that we all feel a need to follow. Because we talk about often, most people live their lives according to the shoulds, wants, and have-tos of society, and never really wake up to what they want. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And social media has ruined us. And I'm saying that as somebody, I'm saying with Steve Warren in the background, we started with Twitter and Facebook back in the day. And I remember Steve would say to me, what are you tweeting about? He would say, you're tweeting about fresh grass?
Right.
I would say, I love the smell of fresh grass in the morning. He would tease me.
Yeah.
But social media has ruined us.
Yeah.
It's made us, it's not real. Social media is not real.
Yeah.
So when I'm arguing with people on Twitter, not about politics, I like arguing about food.
Yeah.
And hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We tried to stir up some controversy at the beginning there, but you didn't really bite on the pizza thing. But that's okay. We'll continue that debate on Twitter later.
I'll give you a second to think about this, but before we move into where you are now and just kind of some of those other experiences, I want to just and I'm thinking of this only because someone very close to me they were visiting a longtime friend who is battling cancer, where there is a 42-year-old mother who has basically been told there is no, she is not going to survive this cancer. She is prolonging her life right now and is just a frail of who she was at home. And so this person in my life was able to go and spend some time with her this week and was just so emotional afterwards, because it's such an incredible place to be, 16-year-old daughter who's basically watching her mother fade away and all of that stuff. And I've been there again, like you with losing your dad. I lost my mom to breast cancer. But maybe to just to share, maybe even to just speak to those who might be listening, who are going through some of those battles. What would you share? What would, from your experience, what would you say to them? Some that have hope, some that maybe don't have hope. So I know it's a heavy ask of you to speak to that. That's why I'm giving you a second to kind of think through your thoughts on it. But to be able to just communicate to people who are battling something so difficult, as someone who has been there, what would you say?
I would share the number one quote that I got on my first battle. Somebody said to me, "You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails."
Oh, I love that.
And that resonated with me big time. So much so that on my second journey, I had to remind myself of that, because I sat in the hospital and I bawled my eyes out the first day, and I said, "Why me?"
Yeah.
And this poor young doctor had to deal with my bullshit. And I'm sorry you're not a shrink. I know you're a doctor. You don't have time for this, but like, why me?
Yeah.
Like, I had it once. That's enough. Why am I getting it? I could get it a third time. Yeah. I don't, like, knock on wood. Is this wood? This wood? This wood?
All of the yes.
All of the yes to all the above.
But I was like, I could technically get sick again. I have no idea. My kids are like, "You gonna get sick again?" I said, "I don't know. I hope not."
Yeah.
And if I do, will I live? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm living every day like it's my last. But it's hopefully this won't be in memoriam. Let's watch.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I love that. And I've heard that quote before. It's so powerful. We can't control what shows up on our doorstep. All we can control is our response.
Yeah.
And again, if you were to say, here's how my response changed.
Yes.
Right. Like, how would you answer that?
It's a loaded question. I don't know if I can answer it, but I always tell people when they get sick who come to me for advice. Like, I went to a late friend of mine, Derek McClintock, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. I remember my first battle. I went and visited him in his room, and I said, "Help me out here. Like, what am I going to expect?" He's like, "This will happen. This will happen. This will happen." And everything that he said would happen. And you have to go to somebody who's gone through it, because asking you if you've never gone through it because you read a book, I want to talk to somebody who's actually experienced it.
Absolutely. It's not the same. No, it's not the same. Yeah.
Yeah. I was reminded of that when my daughter passed away. It was, of course, it's probably one of the most difficult things that any parent will go through is to experience that, and to have people at the time who would come to me almost trying to, I understand what you're going through. It's like, fuck you.
No, you don't.
No clue.
We never know what to say. That's the problem.
And that's exactly
and
right.
That's a default response.
Yes. Yeah. We come or I feel for you, whatever it is. And it's, my comment to this person who was visiting this friend this week was just you being there and just spending time. You don't have to come up with answers. You don't have to go there with all this stuff. Just having the person beside you to say you're not alone is so powerful.
You have no idea what words mean. I mean, people would message me constantly when I was in hospital, and the words meant a lot, because I'm sitting there in the hospital, I'm feeling like shit, I'm not myself, and I love reading the messages. Not, "Hey, way to go," just, "I'm with you." I mean, even reading something like that meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of folks in there, whatever adversity they're facing, I think there's this belief that we feel like we're the only one.
Yeah.
That this is all, I'm alone. There's nobody. And yet, when we share our story, I think that's the power of vulnerability. I mean, Brene Brown calls it a superpower, right? Is when we share our story openly as we're comfortable, what we realize is we're not alone.
Yeah.
There are others who have been through what we've been through or something similar, or who are willing to just come alongside and say, "Rooting for you, man. 100%. Like, I'm cheering you on," right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, even the whole the premise behind living richly is, living your best life, and it's easy to say, "Oh, well, that's easy for you to say. Look at you. You've got a good job. You're healthy. You got some good friends.
I'm in great shape.
You clearly are in great shape. Us two are fat fucks, but you're in great shape."
I didn't want to say anything.
And that's not what this is about.
No.
This is about living your best life, regardless of the circumstances you're in the moment.
At the big lottery a couple of weeks ago, the $60 million.
Yes.
I was joking with my kids.
Did you win?
I didn't win.
Okay.
Oh.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I lose my number.
Sorry, guys.
We know the cutoff
Nice
point.
podcast and all, but I'd be gone.
I said to my kids, "You're nothing without your health. If you're,
Right.
you can have $68 million, but if you're not healthy, you have nothing.
Right.
You can have the best shoes, the best cars, but if you're not healthy, you have nothing." And I heard that for years, didn't understand it until I went through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That fits into what Ben Bergeron said just recently. We had Ben Bergeron, who's a CrossFit coach, and he was on.
Oh, he's a legend in the world of CrossFit. He's trained like seven world champion athletes.
I used to do those.
The fittest man, the fittest woman, and we talked to him about again the what is most important, and he of course he recognizes he's in the health and fitness world, but he argues that its health is more important when it comes to all of the elements of what makes a full life. And he used the example. It was such a great example of this wealthy guy on a yacht with all the beautiful women and everything around him, but the guy has strep throat. He's not thinking about any of that stuff. He's thinking about the pain that he's in. Yeah. And it's so true, right? Without your health, all of that is secondary.
Yeah, total 100%.
Yeah.
Now I use that excuse when I go to buy a new Mustang for my dealership, and my wife says, "No, you're not. You can't play the cancer card again."
But
there has to be some perks, right? There has to be some benefits of surviving
buy a
twice.
couple of sports cars that I shouldn't have bought.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
She's a wise woman. Yeah,
she is.
absolutely.
It's
Kudos
good.
to her.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where are you in your health right now?
I'm very healthy. I'm walking every day, half-hour a day, which does sound like a lot, but I'm fat and I'm out of shape. When you sit around and binge watch shit every day, that's what happens to your body.
Right.
Your body goes stiff.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. Not in the way they get a pill.
Yes. Right.
I'm at that point in my life where a pill's needed. I remember the radiation doctor said to me, my first battle, he says, "You're going to have 3 symptoms. You're going to have cataract surgery, potentially. You have lung cancer, potentially, and loss of libido." That's all. Loss of libido? What?
Yeah.
Get me fixed.
Get me fixed right now.
We are going to get an email from his wife saying, cut that part of the episode out.
Steve can fix just about anything in post, right? He can edit just about anything out.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So again, our podcast is, we've gotten feedback that people are like, we're not used to having 2 guys. Now there's 4 of us usually, but sometimes it's the 2 of us. Sometimes it's our two better halves together. We shoot episodes, all 4 of us. But for the longest time, it was just a bunch of dudes. Talking about stuff that dudes don't usually talk about. Talking about your feelings, talking about your inner fears, talking about struggles, talking again that vulnerability piece, and people have resonated pretty strongly with that message. And of course, that's how you've been living your life. But it's all about living richly, living your best life. And I'm curious, when I say it, use that language with you. What does living richly mean to you?
Waking up in the morning and just hearing the sounds of my kids laughing, not fighting with each other, and talking to my wife and not getting in shit for once, and doing the simplest things. It could be making breakfast. It could be making a salad. Like I now my life is boring. I used to MC everything I could get my hands on. Now I MC one event a year, a golf tournament from my buddy Pat Frost in the summer. His eldest has autism. I've been doing this tournament for 20 years. That's the only thing I do now.
Right.
My life is boring, and I like it that way.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're enjoying the little things that most of us we race through life, right? Not present to those little things.
I would have never appreciated a tree with the fall colors more than I do now.
Oh,
and it's so. Like I've seen this tree 1,000 times, 10,000 times, but I look at it every night. I'm like, that's a beautiful tree. My wife's like, what are you looking at? I'm like, look at the tree. She's like, I know. And I'm driving home with my daughter. She works at Saunders Farm. Driving home, Bella, look at the clouds. They're clouds, Daddy. Yeah, but look at that cloud. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
There's something powerful. We talk. Wow. So many people talk about being in the moment, and yet they don't really. Most people are never in the moment, right? No. To be able to take it.
My co-host Angie always gives me shit for walking too slow whenever we're at an event. I'm like, I'm taking time to smell the roses. You're old.
Well, I think a lot of folks spend time. We're either regretting the past, or we're stressing about the future, but we're not here right now. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you're here.
I'm here. I don't regret the past. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from those mistakes. And I tell my kids all the time, I said, you can't go through life perfect. You'll make your mistakes. You'll learn from them.
Yeah.
If we don't make mistakes, how are we going to get better?
Right. Absolutely.
So what's next for you?
I have a project with Ryan Reynolds. No, I'm kidding. He needs a stunt guy.
Nice. He does. Great. Yeah, exactly.
I don't have anything on the go, really. I'm just trying to get through every day.
Yeah. And just kind of right now focusing in on the health and being able to just appreciate and enjoy family.
And doing what my wife tells me to do.
Yeah, which is what keeps you healthy.
Yes.
Gentlemen, we hope you're listening. He says there's a lot of wisdom coming from that side of the table right now. Stu, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Again, I've admired your courageous story from afar, and to be able to have you here in studio and just get to know you on a personal level, hear you talk about it, really meaningful for us, really meaningful for our listeners. Before we wrap up, how can people connect with you if they want to follow you on social? Maybe tell us how they can do that.
Follow me on Twitter at Stuntman Stu, on Instagram at Stuntman Stu, on Facebook as Stu Schwartz, on Visco. I'm on everything,
and on Tinder. We're not going to tell
it. Sexy Barhaven bitch.
Nice. Yeah. We will certainly, as we always do in the show notes, we will include all of those links so that you can find and connect with Stu. I want to thank you so much again for tuning in and being a part of our podcast and part of this episode. If this one has spoken to you, I want to encourage you to like, perhaps even share it, especially if you know somebody that maybe could hear a little bit of what Stu's journey has been and would bring encouragement and hope to them. Why don't you make a comment and tag them in that so that they'll see it as well.
Operators are standing by. Please make your donation to Stuntman Stu. We'll take credit cards. American Express, we don't discriminate.
We'll take all of it. We'll take all of it. And make sure to go to our website, livingrichley.me, where you can find, of course, all the previous episodes, and you can find all the show notes and resources that are referred to on the show. Folks, thanks again for joining us. Living Richly Nation, it's a real honor to be with you every week. And until we see you next time, get out there and live your best life.